Welcome, everybody. Good morning. It's a new week. It's a new day. Everything is good. It's a new season. Everything is fresh and new. So welcome. I want to share just a word. It's just something that I have in my heart that I want to bring over. So I think this is more a prophetic thing for you watching than it is a specific teaching, but it is a teaching. Okay, so I want to start in Proverbs chapter 3, and I'm going to start reading in verse 5. Just see if I can see some people. Hallo Marieta en Pa Wessie, is lekker om julle te sien. Good morning, Janine. Right, hello Greg, it's good to see you there. Okay, so just listen to this, and I believe God is going to speak to you. It says, lean on, trust in, be confident in the Lord with all your heart and mind, and do not rely on your own insight and understanding. Hey, Rob, it's good to see you. In all your ways, know, recognize, acknowledge Him, and He will direct and make straight and plain your paths. So, in all your ways, acknowledge Him. So sometimes it's just something that you want, and you acknowledge Him, and He makes straight your path. But sometimes it's something that He commands, and He makes straight your path. But if your heart is always seeking after Him, seeking after His voice, you will hear Him when He stops you and says, don't do it. Okay? So this is something Lester Summerall said. He said, I never asked God what His will was. I just do the Bible, and then I'm in His will. But God was always faithful to stop me if I wasn't in His will. So God will stop you, He will speak to you. But if your heart is always in acknowledging Him, always checking things with Him, always asking Him what His take is on this, and if He is with you in this, okay? So I have an example that I want to first go to in 2 Samuel chapter 5, and this is David. After he had been anointed king, David took wives and children were born to him, and the Philistines heard of it. It says in verse 17, the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over Israel, and they all went up to find him. But he heard of it and went down to the stronghold. The Philistines also came and spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim. David inquired of the Lord. So this is the first thing. So David was a man after God's own heart. So a lot of people have different takes on this, and I like what Tommy Tenney says in his book, God Chasers. He says that if this is where God's heart is, he was running after it. He was running. He was always after his heart. But yes, obviously, who he was, his character, his nature, was something that God really loved. Okay, but if we look at Solomon, and yesterday we talked about Solomon, David's son, and he wasn't after God's heart, he was after idols. He was turned away from God by the 700 wives and 300 concubines that he had in defiance of the law, and his heart was turned away of the Lord to their gods, and he became an idol worshiper. Okay, so idol worship is the opposite of being after God's heart. So I just want to put that juxtaposition there just so that you can see what he really means. So he was after God's heart. That means that he inquired of the Lord. That means that he trusted in the Lord, and in all his ways he acknowledged Him. So he said, David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I go up against the Philistines? Will you deliver them into my hand? Now, David, from the beginning, when he started, conquering people, the first one was the biggest. It was Goliath. And before people, there were lions and bears that he conquered, but always with the Lord, always inquiring after the Lord. And even when Goliath was there, he said, who is this uncircumcised Philistine? He's just nothing, because I come in the name of the Lord. So he said, Goliath said to him, you come with me with a stick. Am I a dog or something that you would come to me with a stick? And he said, you come to me with a shield and with a spear and with a sword, but I come to you in the name of the Lord. And without a shield, without a spear, without a sword, David defeated Goliath because he inquired of the Lord. Okay, he just used his slingshot and he cut off Goliath's head with his own sword. All right? So he inquired of the Lord because he knew the Lord would give Goliath into his hand as the Lord gave the lion into his hand, as the Lord gave the bear into his hand. Okay? So, and the Lord said to David, "Go up, for I will surely deliver them into your hand." So he got a word. So if you're wondering about something, it may be a good thing, it may be a bad thing, but it's a good thing to step out on a word, if you have a word from the Lord. So sometimes it's best to keep quiet and wait until you know in the core of your being that God gave you a word. And people can say whatever they want, people can rush you, people can push you. Don't worry about that. Acknowledge God. And when you acknowledge God and you wait for an answer, and you wait for Him to speak to you, sometimes just out of the blue, He speaks something so unexpected. He speaks something that touches your heart, that only He knows how to do it. All right? So when He speaks, you know you got a word from the Lord, and you step out on the word of the Lord. Okay. So David came to Baal Perazim, and he smote them there and said, "The Lord has broken through my enemies before me like the bursting out of great waters." So he called the name of that place Baal Perazim, Lord of breaking through. There the Philistines left their images, and David and his men took them away. The Philistines came up again and spread themselves out in the valley of Rephaim. When David inquired of the Lord, God said, "You shall not go up, but go around behind them and come upon them over the opposite mulberry trees." Okay, so now he inquired of the Lord again, but the answer of the Lord was different this time. And this is what we need to understand, is sometimes the Lord directs us this way around, sometimes that way around. Okay, but inquire of the Lord. So it's not necessary to inquire of Him about a red toothbrush or a blue toothbrush. But if He specified that you go to a shop to buy a red toothbrush, then you go and you buy a red toothbrush. Okay? So sometimes it's of significance, of symbolic or prophetic significance, small things like this, if He speaks. Otherwise, pick one. He's not going to brush His teeth with it, you are. You know, shall I buy the white car or the silver car? He's not going to drive it, you're going to drive it, pick a color and go on with it, go on with your life, okay? But if He says, buy that car, you buy that car, okay? Because He's orchestrating something and He wants to bless someone's life. And if someone asks for a specific sign that, and He can speak to someone in that way and He can get you to pick a certain color car, then you need to obey His voice. Otherwise, He needs to find another way, and it takes time. All right? So, if He says something, do it. Otherwise, in normal, everyday stuff, pick one. But now, here is war. Okay? So, here is it's a big event. It's a big move. So, a lot of people's lives are entangled into this thing. A lot of people, he's king over Israel. He's the big leader, and he's inquiring of the Lord. Okay? So, like what Lester Samuel said, inquiring of the Lord is reading and doing what it says. Reading and doing what it says. But sometimes God is specific, and if He speaks, do exactly what He says. Don't do what you usually do. Be specific and do what the voice of the Lord said that time. And even if that's the only time that you're going to do it that way, you do it that way. Okay? So if He says something specific, you stick with that. Okay, so He says, when David inquired of the Lord, He said, "You shall not go up." So if he just did what he automatically did the previous time, assuming that God would be with him, he would have had some trouble. But God said, "No, don't do that. go around behind them and come upon them over opposite the mulberry trees. And when you hear the sound of marching, the King James says the sound of a going in the tops of the mulberry trees, then bestir yourselves, for then has the Lord gone out before you to smite the army of the Philistines. So God said, I'm going to give you a sign. So there's a specific timing to this thing. So be patient. Don't follow your own head. Don't try your own thing now. You've inquired of me. Now I'm giving you specific instructions. So just wait there in the mulberry trees. If you hear a going about, or if you hear a sound of a marching in the mulberry trees, then go. Okay? It says, bestir yourselves, for then then has the Lord gone out before you to smite the army of the Philistines. And David did as the Lord had commanded, and he smote the Philistines from Geba to Gezer. He did it, but like he did everything, he did it in the name of the Lord. He came to the Philistines in the name of the Lord. Those Philistines could never figure out David. Okay. All right. So it's a very specific thing today. Let's just go to Isaiah 40. And I just want to say, in this thing, I think one of the greatest virtues when we hear the voice of the Lord and when we follow Him, one of the greatest virtues is patience. To not follow our own idea. To not try to expedite the situation by trying to do our own thing, but waiting on the Lord, because the waiting on the Lord is going to be quicker than the time you're going to wait out if you do it your way. Okay, you may even mess up the whole situation if you do it your way. So if you are over eager to do something, stop, wait on the Lord, get a word from the Lord. Okay, so he says, Isaiah 40. Verse 28, have you not known, have you not heard, the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, does not faint or grow weary. There is no searching of his understanding. He gives power to the faint and weary. To him who has no might, he increases strength, causing it to multiply and making it to abound. Even youths shall faint and be weary, and selected young men shall feebly stumble and fall exhausted. Okay? So it's not about how big and strong you are. It's not about how young you are. It's not about how fit you are. It's not about how clever you are. It's not about how rich you are. Nothing of that matters. He says, but those who wait for the Lord. King James, they that wait upon the Lord. Who expect, look for, hope in him, says the Amplified. Shall change and renew their strength. So change it like a garment, renew their strength and power. They shall lift their wings and mount up close to God as eagles, mount up to the sun. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint or become tired. Do you want to become tired? Do it your way. Do you want to face burnout? Do it your way. Or to be part of a system where people do it their way and not God's way. God's way is waiting on him, doing less. To Gideon he said, get rid of all these people, I will do it with 300. How many? 300, 400. Get rid of all these people. I will show you I'm with you. Okay? So, God isn't the way, he doesn't think the way we think. Okay? So, with God you do less. But what you do is on his instruction, and that may be just generally doing the word, or that may be a specific instruction from the Spirit of God. But you do what God says. And if you do what God says, that's the short way. That's the quick way, even if it seems longer, even if your way seems in your head quicker. It's not. Okay? So, he gives power to the faint and weary. To him who has no might, he increases strength. So if you wait on him, there's power. So in Ephesians chapter 3, it says, pray that you may have mighty indwelling strength, strong encouragement to grasp a hold of the hope that you have. Okay, so mighty indwelling strength, strong encouragement. So he says it also in Hebrews chapter 6. He says, grab a hold of the hope that you may have, mighty power in the inner man, strong encouragement in the inner man. Okay, so he gives power to the faint and the weary. So if we wait on him, and we do this by his power, and we don't do it by our own understanding, don't do it by our own power, his power does it the way he wants it to do. So you rest, you stop, you do less, you wait for a word, and when the word comes, then you bestir yourself. If he gives a sign, wait for the sign, be patient. And when that thing presents, then you do it, and then it's quick and easy. So resting is patience. Patience is a fruit of the Spirit. So resting is ceasing from your own way, ceasing from your own labors, ceasing from doing it with your own energy, and waiting on him to infuse you with mighty power in the inner man, and then moving from the power that he has infused into you. Okay, let's just go to Hebrews chapter 4. So resting doesn't mean we do nothing. Resting means we wait for him to speak and give us the power to do it. Resting means I'm trusting in Jesus' works and not my own. I acknowledge him and not my own understanding. Okay? So that's resting. So he says, Hebrews chapter 4, the whole chapter is about someone who believes, who then enters into the rest. So the Israelites heard the good news just as we had when they heard the good news of going into the promised land, but the good news they heard did not benefit them because it wasn't mixed with faith. So they never trusted in the word that they believed, that they heard, and they never entered into the promise because God swore in his wrath they would not enter his rest because of their unbelief. Okay, so if we don't believe what he says, so we don't do the word, we're not doers of the word, James chapter 1, and we don't wait for him to speak to us so that we step out on a word, then you will not enter. If you take your own way, do your own thing, making your own arm of the flesh your strength. You know, you're standing, I can do it better, I can do it quicker, I can do it this way, I can do it that way. You know, you may be correct according to your science or to your philosophy, so you may have found a good way to do a certain thing. But do what God says. Sometimes God wants you to do less. Say, for instance, he wants you to build a wall. Say, for instance, he wants you to build a wall, like he sent Ezra to go and Nehemiah to go and build the wall of Jerusalem, rebuild it, and to rebuild the city and to rebuild the temple. Okay, so say he sends you to build a wall. Now you want to rush out. I know how to, I'm a mason. I know how to cut the stone. And I can build this wall. Okay, great. You know how to build a wall. That's good. Or say he wants you to design a helicopter or whatever. you know. But when God is involved, he gives you supernatural understanding. Okay? So now he's involved. Now he adds people that does it for you. And you just say what needs to happen and it happens. And God adds people and the job gets done. And they are infused with inner strength to do it. They are infused with joy and the anointing of the Lord to do it. And you don't have to do everything yourself. And it's something that I had to learn in ministry. I did everything. Well, mainly because there was no one else to help me. But I did everything. But somewhere I needed to learn that I need to surrender things. and I need to let God add people who can take things away from me and do it. Okay? So it's not, you see a vision of where the ministry is going. You see a vision of this is where we're going to end up. So how are you going to get there? I don't know. So, I saw this thing. Yeah, I saw this thing in a split second. I mean, we didn't even have a church yet. It was back in September 2001. I was still a student at university. I saw this vision of where we're going to go. So in a moment, I knew where I was going. But God said, wait. He said, finish your studies. Wait for me. So I finished my studies. Okay. Then he said, go do your articles at a law firm. I don't want to go. I don't want to be a lawyer anymore because I have this vision to go to ministry. So, but God said, no, finish it up. So I was patient and I did it. Okay? And then 6 months before the time he spoke to me, he said, okay, January 2005. 6 months before the end of that, he spoke to me, he said, go to Marnus, now to that time it was called Emmanuel Bedieninge, now it's called Abundant Grace Ministries. He said, go January 2005, go then, full-time to Marnus. So I think it was a Wednesday or a Thursday, a Thursday that God spoke to me. And that Saturday I drove through to Potchefstroom to speak to Marnus. And we were sitting in the coffee shop, the Akker in Potchefstroom, the coffee shop. And we were sitting there having a muffin and or a scone or something and some coffee. And before I could say it, he said, I see you have a heart for ministry. And I want just to tell you that if you want to come January 2005, I said, this is exactly why I drove through, why I came to see you, because this is the word that God gave me, January 2005. So sometimes you just got to do what God says in the meantime. Okay? Why did I have to go and finish my articles? I don't know. Why did I have to go and finish my degree? Because God said so. Why did I finish I said, this is something so interesting. I'm now telling stories, but in 2002, it was my final year at university. So my father's office moved from one building in the city center to another building. So I was helping him to move boxes, So it's boxes with stacks and stacks of books. My father is a lawyer, so it's just all these leather-bound books, and he's got, all these beautiful wooden bookcases with all these leather books in it, and he knows most of them. In his mind, he's like incredible. So he's got all these books, and we were just moving these boxes into his new office. And just before that, I said to God, okay, I'm not going to send out curriculum vitae to any law firms. I was in final year university. I'm not going to send anything out. I want you to place me where I need to be. That's what I asked God. Put me where I need to be. And I just left it. Everyone else was scrambling for positions because you can't get into law. There's too many students. There's too little positions available. You can't get in. You can't. So, and all these guys with all these, you get these students. I was a student and I never repeated anything at university, but hey, you get students and you get students, man. There was these students and they know what they're doing. Most of the time I was just, in church. I didn't care. So there's these students. They sent out to all the big firms. They want to be at this firm. This one want to be at this firm. I sent out nothing. Okay? So then I said to God, put me where I need to be. And then as I was carrying this box, my phone rang. And I answered my phone, and it was a professor from the university that I studied. And he invited me, I don't know why he invited me, but he invited me, would you please, are you interested in a position at one of the biggest law firms in Pretoria? I said, yes, I am. Okay. So he invited me, and they were, I went to the university, and there was around this big table, all these, super students and me. And I was sitting there, and here's the director of this big firm, and he invited us to send our CVs. I got my CV ready, and I gave it to them. A few days later, I gave me the CV. Or he said I must prepare a CV or something, but I gave them my CV. One CV in total that I gave. One. Only one. Everyone scrambling for positions. One CV. Okay? So they invited me, so I gave them my CV. Out of all those students, I was the only one that got the position. Okay? They all had better marks than I did. They all knew more than I did. They were all more qualified for it than I was in the natural. But I asked God to put me where He wants me to be. So I was at Van der Merwe Toy. It's a very, very good firm. Okay, so I was working there. So, but the point isn't what I learned there. The point is that God put me there. I needed to be there because God gave me a word. And 6 months before the end of that time, He gave me a word, go to Potchefstroom. And I acted on the word. I mean, I just put my stuff, I had like a VW Golf, and I just put all my stuff in the car, and I drove to Potchefstroom. I left everything else, and I just drove there. I stayed with my uncle for 2 weeks and found a place to live, found a place. I didn't have partners, I had nothing, but God provided. Okay? Stepped out on a word. All right. So, and soon I had partners and people helping me to, serve at this ministry. All right. So the point is, it's not how I did things. The point is, wait for a word. Wait for the Lord. When He speaks, act on the word. Okay, so I was there at that ministry for 3 years. And at the end of 2007, so I was there 5, 6, 7, Marnus said, okay, go find out, he said to everyone there, go find out if you need to be here next year. Speak to God. Okay? Don't come back if you're not supposed to be here. And the whole time I just felt, I'm not really sure it's going to happen, but I'm not coming back. Okay? So I was there on my father's farm. There was this thatched roof building, and it's still there. The rest of the house burned down, but that one didn't burn. And there was like a loft in it with a wooden floor. And I was praying there in that room. Maybe that's why it didn't burn down. Okay, so I was praying there, and Lord, what do you want me to do next year? So I don't want to act out of what was I going to do, what was I going to say, nothing. I said, Lord, where do you want me? Where do you want me? Where do you want me? I was just praying. And all the time, I just saw myself preaching in this little hall that we rented at the library to have services. Back then, Marnus rented the hall. My mother found it out, and she got us this place, and we started renting that hall to have services. And then, so what happened was, I saw myself in there. I saw myself preaching in Pretoria in that library hall. I saw myself preaching in that library hall. So that's all I saw. Okay. So just before the end of that year, it was we had in the December time we had to pick a time to preach. So I picked mine close to New Year so I can go to Spirit Words New Year service. So I was in Potchefstroom in my little house there. And I invited all my friends who were there to just come and have a braai at my house. Okay. And we were, everyone was there and happy. And so, and Marnus came in, coming to the braai. He said, I want to talk to you. He said, God spoke to me and He mentioned the night. And it was the exact same night I was praying, seeing myself ministering in that hall. So God spoke to me again to minister there. So He said, I saw you starting a ministry in Pretoria from that library. So I said, yes, and that's it. So I stayed there for another month to just give all my tasks over to other people and so on. And January, February 2008. We started this ministry. So the point is, wait for a word. Wait for a word. When the Lord speaks, wait for a word. So now it's the same thing with this building. We're going to buy this building, and I thought this is a good opportunity. If it is an opportunity, we find out. We just call the people. So, but I said I'm not moving anywhere if I don't get a word. Okay, and God spoke to me in the gym with those ugly music they played. Okay, so so I was just going and going, but I was actually I had earphones. I was listening to Jason Upton, so that was nice. So I was, in the gym, and God said, "You know what? I've reserved this building for you for many years." God said to me, "I reserved this building for you for many years." In that moment, I realized it's a word from the Lord, and we need to move to this place. Okay, so now I'm sticking my neck out saying this, but this was what dropped in my heart. So I said, and I just thought about it, and I meditated about it, and I realized because a friend of my wife used to go to that church years ago, and she said even then they already had these two congregations merged. It was years ago that it merged, but they never sold the building. Okay, so God reserved this thing. God kept it for us. Okay, and when we inquired, they were eager to sell. Okay, so I don't know why, I don't know, but the point is, he said to me, "I reserved it for you until you could recognize it." All right? So, in all your ways, acknowledge Him. In everything that you're busy doing, give Him some time to speak to you. Okay? So, patience isn't so much me having to wait because God is slow. That's not patience. Patience is me trusting Him to speak to me so I can step out on a word. Me trusting Him to open a door for me so I can go through the door. So patience, faith is like a dance. It's like I take a step and He takes a step, and I take a step and He takes a step. And patience is His step. I'm waiting for Him to make a move. That's patience. So patience makes it quicker, because when there's patience, God moves. When there's patience, God speaks. So if you can be patient to hear the voice of the Lord and just do what the voice of the Lord says, then He can quickly take you where you need to be. Okay, so Hebrews chapter 4, he says, "Inasmuch as we have a great high priest," verse 14, "who has already ascended and passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast to our confession of faith in Him. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to understand and sympathize and have a shared feeling with our weaknesses, infirmities, and liabilities to the assaults of temptation. But one has been tempted in every respect as we are, yet without sinning." So He knows exactly where you are. He knows exactly what problems you have. He knows exactly. He knows exactly. Okay? So if you can wait for Him, He will give you something, an answer, or He will give you a word, He will give you mighty indwelling strength, custom-made for you in your situation now. Okay, so he says, "Let us then fearlessly, confidently, boldly draw near to the throne of grace, the throne of God's unmerited favor to us sinners, that we may receive mercy for our failures and find grace to help in good time for every need, appropriate help, well-timed help, coming just when we need it." So there's a timing to this thing. When you hear the going about in the mulberry bush, then bestir yourselves, because then you will know that God has gone out before you to conquer them. Okay, so when you hear, wait for Him. Those that wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. They will rise up with wings as eagles. They will run and not get weary. They will walk and not get faint. If you don't want to burn out, wait for Him. Okay? If you want to rise up with wings as eagles and fly high in the realm of the Spirit, okay? Wait for the Lord. Wait for the Lord. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. He will make it straight. He will make it plain. He will remove all the obstacles out of it. He will give you favor, and He will open doors for you. All right. So I hope this message has meant something to you. So I think it's a very specific word for the time for now, for where we are. But take it for you, for your life. Inquire of the Lord, but wait for Him. Okay? In all your ways, acknowledge Him. Okay. Right. Who did Naila Tani Yuki there from Potch, bless you. And hello, Liffy, Lenay, and Aaron, work wonders to support, aid, and help your children, Father, so they may be strong and overcome this world as you have in Christ. We believe, let us see your power. Yeah, I agree. Amen. God will work wonders for you. All right, so be blessed, everyone. Hope you have an amazing day. I'm actually on my way to the church that we're buying now. We are making an awesome video. So we're going to, we got a professional guy to do it, Jan van Vieren. If you ever need to make an awesome video, you can contact them. You can ask me for their details. But he's the best in the business. So he's finding me there now at 10 o'clock. And we are going to make an amazing, nice video of the whole facility, of everything, and so that we can show it to you. All right, so that's what we're going to do. There's an email address. Please send us an email. Please give us feedback, ask questions, or whatever, and be blessed. We'll see you again tomorrow morning at 9. Amen.